Our third reading this morning is from Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 15 through 20. Listen for God's word that is for us in this day. And Moses spoke to the people, saying, "See, I have set before you today life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am commanding you today, by loving the Lord your God, walking in his ways, and observing his commandments, decrees, and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away, and you do not hear, but are led astray to bow down to other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life, so that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying him, and holding fast to him, for that means life to you and length of days, so that you may live in the land that the Lord swore to give to your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So today's sermon has a prologue. See, this is an important passage. It is beautiful and poetic and powerful, and yet preaching it makes me nervous because I worry what you will hear. I worry that no matter what I say, someone will go away hearing that if they do the right things, they will have a great life, God will bless them, and everything will go their way. I worry that someone will go away questioning their faith or renouncing God because they have believed they have done the right things, and yet they have had great sorrow and suffering. I worry that someone will go and judge others, saying or thinking that if they had just followed God's way a bit better, then their lives would not be such a mess, or this horrible thing would not have happened to them. I worry that somehow you will hear this passage as a way to prove that God is for you or against you. This is a passage that is meant to encourage right living, but somehow it's easy for us to turn around. So today, please, don't hear any of those things. Okay? All right, we have an agreement. So the actual question, I think, that's behind this passage is, how are you going to live when you get where you're going? There's this song I came across a few years ago. It's called "With Arms Outstretched" by Rilo Kiley. Not really sure how to pronounce that. And it starts off with this longing tone as these words are sung. It's 16 miles to the promised land. And I promise you, I'm doing the best that I can. Have you ever felt like that? Ever been looking at the finish line and you know it's coming and it's close, but why does it seem to be getting farther away? Or you feel like you're almost there and you're doing the best you can, but you're honestly not sure if you can make it. Was there a time that you were so close to what was next? Maybe the last leg of a long journey, or the last day before moving day, or the night before your wedding, or one more day before a whole new job or new school, or this whole new chapter of life. And maybe in your last job or school, or marriage or town, you made mistakes. And finally, here is a chance to start again, to start fresh, to try again. You're almost there. So there's this moment where you can rush ahead, or you can pause and look back, and pause and look over that finish line and wonder what it will be like. And imagine your best self and how you could live in this next chapter that is almost there. Have you ever done that? You ever ignored that moment? I have. But this is where Israel is. The Israelites have been waiting in the desert for 40 years. They have wandered in the wilderness, and finally they are so close. The only thing between them and the promised land is the Jordan River. And it is not nearly as big as the Susquehanna. You can see across it. They are camped on the side, and the other side, it looks really good. So here they are, all stopping, camping on the side of this river. And Moses, who isn't going, Moses, who has led them this whole time, gathers them all together and speaks. And in the midst of it, he's asking, how are you going to live when you get where you're going? So Moses puts it together for them as a choice. Life or death, what will it be? And the choice seems simple and easy, doesn't it? I mean, what would you choose? Life or death? You choose what? Oh, good. That's a good choice. And we make choices really quickly all day long, every day, right? I mean, chocolate or vanilla? Call or text? Chips or an apple? I appreciate those of you who are honest. Decaf or regular? We're pretty good at making these quick choices, aren't we? We make them all the time, yet this choice that Moses is asking isn't an instant choice. It isn't a one or done. It isn't you make it and you move on and it doesn't matter. This is about choosing a path. It's choosing an intention. It's choosing who you will be. For the people of Israel, this is a decision that is a long time coming. These words we read today are part of a longer speech. Moses said a great deal more, and in it he summarizes a lot of what God has told them, a lot of what they have learned in these last 40 years. The speech is a review. Any of you love that day in class where the teacher does that review for you before the test? This is the review. It is great. It gives it all to you right here. And it is reminding the people that they are God's covenant people. God continues to hold up the divine side of this agreement. They have been brought out of slavery. They've been sustained by manna, this bread from heaven. They have been led by a pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire. They have been given God's good law. And while God has done all of that, the people have said that they will follow. They have said that they are God's people. But so far, they've complained. They have turned from God. They've made a calf out of gold and worshiped it. They messed up, right? They messed up their side of the agreement more than once. Yet here they are, by the grace of God anyway, they are almost at the promised land. So how are they going to live when they get where they are going? Moses reminds them of God's law, which tells them first to love the Lord their God with all their heart and mind and soul and strength, to turn to God, to teach God's ways to their children. But what will they do? Will they follow God's ways and live into their half of the covenant? Or will they again be distracted by other ways that make false promises and twist and deceive what is right? I watched The Matrix a couple weeks ago because, it was on TV. And this is one of those choices that sometimes makes you think of that. You've seen that movie, he's offered 2 pills. But this isn't a choice like Neo faced in The Matrix. Which pill are you going to take? Are you going to take the one where you forget the truths you are facing, or the one that reveals more of the truth? It's not like that, because this isn't an unknown path. It's not like following the white rabbit down the rabbit hole. The question that people are asked today is, will you do what you need to do this time? Will you uphold your part of the agreement? So let's use an example you may be more familiar with. This choice about life or death, it's about taking a path that is laid out. God has given us ways to live that are good. And so it's more like receiving a syllabus at the beginning of a class. Anybody like receiving a really good syllabus? What's good about it? It tells you what time the classes are. It tells you what the assignments are. It tells you what to read. It tells you when the projects and exams are. It lays out for you exactly what you need to do to be successful in the class. Professors, teachers, am I right? That's what it's supposed to do, right? You tell us everything right up front that we need to do. So can you picture Moses as a teacher who cares maybe a bit too much about his students, asking, hoping, begging, please, will you follow this path that leads to success? Will you do the reading? Will you turn in the assignments on time? Will you show up to class? Will you ask for help when you need it? Will you take all of this in so you are ready for the test? Except their question is, will you follow God's commandments? God has laid out the way and given you the instruction. We have been told this is our part of the covenant. It is something that we can do. So how will you choose to live? Will you keep worshiping things instead of God? Will you let something created take God's place? Will you tell a lie, not realizing that it becomes a secret that traps you and betrays those you love? Will you kill another, maybe not in body or in spirit? Will you honor and respect the lives of those around you? Will you live as one who is grateful and honors their parents and those who take care of you? Will you be a giver or a taker? Will you love the Lord your God with your whole being? Or will you hide? Hide from the only one who truly knows you and loves you. Will you live as God's covenant people choosing a way of life that is good for you and for those around you? Will you choose the path, the one God lays out, the one that leads to life? How will you live when you get where you're going? How will you live now? Christ made sure that it is never too late to choose the path that leads to life. And Christ came and showed us even more of this path than we hear in Deuteronomy. Christ shows us that even through death, God's path leads to life. So, people of God, choose today. Choose again. Choose every day. Choose life. Choose God. Amen.